G'day there guys, I'm showing the haters how it's done by hating myself the most. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-hole. Now if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, give the closest person near you a handshake, click like on this video, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user Throwaway Takeout 2020. Titled, Am I the a-hole for eating takeout while stepdad had a heart attack? Last night I got off work late, so I ordered food. I'm staying with my mum and stepdad for a few months. I never knew him that well, as I grew up with my bio dad from age 6 when my parents split. I visited my mum every other summer, and we've always been on friendly terms, but never super close until I moved to their city for work. I'm staying until I can find a place to rent myself. Shortly before my takeout arrived, my stepdad collapsed. My mum called me for help and of course, I helped. We called an ambulance and gave him first aid together until the paramedics took over. They got a pulse and transferred him to the ambulance. They lost the pulse in the ambulance and couldn't take him to the hospital until they got it back. The woman explained this to us before shutting the doors. Around this point, my takeout arrived. I paid and explained what was happening as the delivery guy was obviously kinda freaked out by the ambulance outside where he was dropping off food. I took the food inside and came back out to check on my mum. She was waiting outside the ambulance and wasn't allowed in while they were working on my stepdad. I stayed with her for about 5 minutes and then suggested we go wait inside as it was cold. She said no, she would wait outside. I said to call me if she needed me and went inside. I had already ordered the food, it was there and going cold. I had not eaten in hours, so I just decided to eat while I waited. Mum came inside and found me eating and told me it was selfish of me to be eating when a family member was dying. I stopped eating as it was clearly upsetting her. Stepdad is alive today. He had a heart attack, but his chances look good. I'm genuinely glad he's okay. This morning, Mum told me she can't believe how cold and callous I am, and she thinks I hate her and my stepdad, and blame them for my parents' divorce. I don't hate either. I didn't think me eating takeout while we waited was a cold thing, but it seems to have really upset her. I don't care about the divorce anymore either. For context, the whole incident, from calling the ambulance to the ambulance leaving, took an hour and 15 minutes. Food arrived halfway through all of this, and there was nothing I could have done to help. Personally, I think her blaming you for her divorce was a big ol' reach in this situation. You were so young, there's no way you could be directly responsible. That's a heartless thing to say, and I'm not so sure I can excuse her for it, even with the grief she's going through in that moment, not knowing whether her partner lives or dies. That in and of itself is an a-hole thing to say. You didn't think eating takeout while you waited was a cold thing to do, but you know her better than us, so I can't particularly make a judgment call on her. I'd say in general, it wouldn't be the end of the world, nor an a-hole thing to do. There was nothing you could have done better for sure, but perhaps waiting on the food would have been better in this situation. But then again, everyone's different. This situation is a difficult one for anyone to be going through at any time, but ultimately I don't think you're an a-hole for eating. Eating is a comforting thing for many people and a reaction to stressful situations to escape them. Her escape just so happens to be blaming you for her divorce. Weird one, that one. Not the a-hole OP. Now in the comments, KM89 says, no a-holes here, I think. This is a tough one because everyone's kind of wrong and nobody is at the same time. Your actions were kind of uncaring, sure, but you're not required to care. She's taking it out on you, but then she was just confronted with the idea that you'd rather eat than be there with her to support her. But then, you're really not required to if you don't care. It's weird, but I think maybe the way you were eating might decide this. If you sat down to a nice meal while your father was dying in the background, sure, you're the a-hole. If you scarfed some food while you could because you hadn't eaten in hours and were trying to stay out of the way, not the a-hole. Everyone handles emergencies differently, and staying out of the way was at least better than getting in it. And OP replies, "Yeah, I work 12-hour shifts and I'd been awake about 16 hours when this all happened. I've been sleep deprived lately in general, and the adrenaline does sort of weird things to you. Giving someone CPR is also actually pretty tiring, not to sound cold, but yeah. I didn't even really think about it. I just went inside and saw the food and figured it was sitting there anyway, so I may as well wait it out and eat. I can see why it might look bad, but I wasn't trying to be a dick. It just didn't occur to me that it would be a bad thing to do at that point. It just seemed like all I could do, I had done." No a-holes here, OP. I don't know why people think that there's a uniform response to stress. For some, the response is simply to carry on. Some people may have the intuitive feeling that staying with the mother is the correct thing to do, but you did ask, she said no, and so you left, telling her that she could find you if she needed you. Everyone commenting that you're an a-hole is also forgetting that eating is actually a natural thing to do when some people are stressed. You don't know when your next meal could be in a bad situation, and it could be that you'd need energy for a long night comforting your mother if the worst did happen. Maybe it's cold or callous. Maybe. Maybe you'd make a great surgeon. I work in a hospital, and operating theaters in the ER room are full of people who can lose a patient and wander off to munch a burger and watch TV and read the paper. It's not necessarily a bad thing to maintain a detachment when dealing with life or death. If these people lose their appetite every time someone nearly died, then they would be dead. Of course, surgeons don't tend to know the people they operate on, but you barely know your stepdad. Might be a different story if it were your mum. Who knows? My grandparents nearly lost their son, my uncle, while my dad couldn't stomach food for weeks. They soldiered on eating, staying alive. They cared. Of course they cared. They haven't been the same since, but they knew that it does no good to neglect yourself, especially when you're going to have to be strong for other people. I get that your mum may think it's weird, but she can't dictate which of your behaviors during stress signify that you care and the amount. Just try to bear in mind that she is probably lashing out because she nearly lost her husband. She's probably freaked out and doesn't understand your behavior. Try to ignore the lashing out, and please try your best to be there for her as much as you can. She may realize that you do care about her, and by extension, your stepdad, but you didn't display it in the way she expects. Show her now. Tell her that you're sorry for upsetting her, and ask how you can rectify the situation. Also, from your responses, you don't think that you may be on the autistic spectrum. I am and always have been called uncaring when I often care a lot, but often didn't know how exactly I was supposed to act. You took your mum's response that she didn't want company literally, which I gather most people in this thread seem to infer means that she did want company. You might just need to be told explicitly what people want from you. Stay with me. Don't go in and eat just yet, please. Just something to think about if you haven't already. And OP replies, "Thanks, I appreciate the reply. It's one of those situations no one knows how they'll react unless they're in it. So it's weird to me to see so many people acting like I've done something evil just because I'm not absolutely torn up about a guy I hardly know. I'm glad he's okay, and I was worried for him, but what more could be done at that stage? No, I'm definitely not autistic. I have no issues that would lead me to think I am. I do understand emotion, and I can take a hint based on body language, and her body language was telling me she didn't want me there. I'm 100% sure of that." Lucy Van Pelt says, "No a-holes here. Your mother was and is stressing. You were not stressing, but even if you were, some people stress eat, others lash out. Yeah. It was more like I just was on autopilot. Really, the adrenaline had worn out and I was hungry and not thinking about how it might look. Sucks all round, to be honest." And OP puts an edit in the post saying, "Edit. So I don't have to keep making the same point. I waited outside with her for 30 minutes. Food arrived, I took it inside and immediately went back outside. The adrenaline had worn off by then, and I noticed it was cold, so I asked if she wanted to go inside after 5 minutes. She said no. I then went inside after waiting with her 35 minutes total. There was nothing we could do but wait, and she had been standing away from me when we were waiting. I asked her a few times if she was okay or needed anything. She said no. She usually deals with stress by being alone and usually asks for some space. She's not upset I didn't continue to wait with her, and that's not what I'm asking about. She's upset that I was able to eat food whilst this was all going on. I know her, and the hints I was getting from her body language was that I wasn't helping by hovering around her anyway. Whilst I'm happy that my stepdad is alive and I have no harsh feelings to him, I don't know him that well. I was concerned for him, but I don't know him well enough to truly panic. I saw him every other year for a few weeks of my life, and I've known him this time for a few months. Nice guy, glad he's okay, but I can't force myself to love him like family. When I went inside, I was cold, tired from a 12-hour shift in performing CPR, and I hadn't eaten in a few hours. I was on autopilot as the adrenaline had worn off. Perhaps it was insensitive of me, but I thought I had done all I could at that point. Again, my mum is not upset I went inside. She's upset I ate as she thinks I don't care about my stepdad. I do care, but not to the extent she would like. That is the issue, not whether I left her outside. I also did all I could in terms of CPR, talking to the paramedics and offering her my support verbally. Someone suggested I should have driven her to the hospital. We were waiting outside the ambulance and I don't drive. I'm also 18 and here on an apprenticeship program, so there are limits to what I can offer to do for her practically. My apprenticeship involves manual work, which is doubly exhausting. Right now we're on lockdown, so I'm the only one working in our household, and I think she forgets how tiring shift work is, as she hasn't done it for months. We're also in the UK, and I think Americans have some strange idea about what you do in a crisis. She would have killed me if I'd started calling all her friends to come over mid-heart attack. We also deal with things in a bit more of a repressed way, so we don't do the whole sobbing and hugging thing Americans seem to think should be going on. And now on to the update. Thankfully, we're expecting my stepdad to make a full recovery. He was able to call me from hospital. We've never really had a deep conversation, or even a very long one, so it was a little awkward, but he thanked me for helping, and we've developed mutual respect for each other. I'm genuinely glad he's okay, and he seems to appreciate what I did. It was a pretty emotional chat, and I'm glad we spoke. I started having some distressing dreams about the incident. Spoke with my doctor, who said it's normal, as it was a traumatic thing to witness. Said I should go back if it doesn't improve, but thankfully, it seems to be getting better in the last few days. I've cleared up the big debate over my mum. We talked a lot. She confirmed she wasn't upset that I went inside. She actually wanted me to go away so she could be alone with her thoughts for a bit. She only came inside as she thought I was upset and trying to hide it by going inside. She said she realized she hadn't checked up on me throughout the wait and felt guilty when she realized. When she came inside and she saw that she'd read the situation wrong, she was just overwhelmed. She said in that moment she felt a lot of guilt for not trying to foster a better relationship between me and my stepdad. It hit her that we really weren't that close, and she was upset at the thought that it might be too late to fix that. When she feels guilt or in the wrong, she explained she tends to lash out as a defense mechanism, which is something I didn't really know about her, but it explains a lot. She also explained again that my stepdad had never wanted kids, but didn't have a problem with me. He just felt awkward as they both assumed I resented them for essentially breaking up my family as I knew it. I've reassured my mum it doesn't bother me, and there is no resentment. Hopefully, we can all be a bit less awkward with each other. I acknowledge that I should have waited to eat now. I can see how it looked insensitive, but fortunately, no one's upset and my stepdad found it funny when I mentioned it. He said he would probably have done the same, and then asked what I ordered. He said it was good scran, so I think no one's too upset. This incident has put things into perspective, and hopefully I can develop a better relationship with my stepdad when he's well enough. I think that would mean a lot to my mum, and he seems like a sound bloke. Also gonna work on better communication with my mum. Thanks to those who reassured me in the comments and privately. Really helped me process things once the shock started wearing off, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. In the comments, Swedish Punch says, I acknowledge that I should have waited to eat now. Don't beat yourself up about this. It's probably how you dealt with the shock. I once read a story about a woman who came upon a horrific crime scene that left a baby uninjured. She calmly tended to the child while waiting for the authorities, not the a-hole. We do weird things in those situations. At one point on 9/11, me and a dorm mate looked at each other, turned off the TV, and grabbed our hated physics homework. Just couldn't handle it anymore, and that was the response. I absolutely do not think it was weird to get food in such a situation. A person who witnesses a shocking event and feels he or she may be needed a bit later with full strength in order to help others automatically feels that he or she has to get prepared. If OP did not have some food for some hours before, it was the most healthy instinct to eat, and drink and go to the toilet, etc. before the minute comes when OP is needed. Maybe it was not conscious by OP, but it was an absolutely healthy and positive reaction to that situation when the outcome was completely unforeseeable. And OP replies, Thanks. I've been reading a bit about shock and things online, and generally, it seems like a pretty normal reaction just from the other anecdotal evidence. At the time, some people in the comments kicked off so hard, I thought I might have done something really messed up without understanding why, just because I don't have a lot of life experience, I think. I can see how it might have looked bad, but it's a relief to hear others have done the same. I was thinking I might be a sociopath without even realizing the way some people went on, but I think it's pretty reasonable now. So many of these family stories come down to X was upset about something completely different than what she said to OP at the time. Glad this gave you a chance to talk and clear the air. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the time, people are just crap at communicating. I'm glad it got sorted. Glad it's worked out okay. What food did you get? Because I imagined it was moussaka when I read OP and update, but I'm sure that's wrong. Thanks, mate. Nah, jalfrezi, rice, and a Peshwari naan. It's pretty good. Threw the sides out though. It always comes with chips, and they're a bit worse off by the time I got inside. Can never get through the lot. This is a great update, and I think you and your family are going to come out on the other side of this much closer. This was some top-notch communicating, and I'm a sucker for a happy ending where all people are acting like adults that respect each other. I hope your stepdad makes a full recovery. Thanks, I hope so. I'm glad no one ended up upset by the whole thing. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.